I bought my childhood home back after 40 years, the house where my grandmother raised 3 generations. I installed solar panels to cut the electric bill, planted a vegetable garden like Nana used to have, and set up a rainwater collection system. The HOA president called it an unauthorized compound and threatened to foreclose on the home my family had owned since 1952. She demanded I rip everything out within 30 days or face a lawsuit. What she didn't know was that my property had legal protections she'd never bothered to research, and her threats were about to bankrupt the entire HOA. My name is Margaret. I'm 68, and I spent 35 years teaching high school history before retiring. My grandmother bought the house on Maple Street in 1952, a small craftsman bungalow with a quarter-acre lot. She raised my father there, then helped raise me and my brothers during summers. That house was everything. The porch where she taught me to snap beans, the backyard where she grew tomatoes and squash, the kitchen that always smelled like fresh bread. When she passed in 2019, my cousin inherited it, but moved for work. Last year, he offered to sell it to me for a fair price. My husband had died 2 years prior, and I was living in a depressing apartment. Coming home to Nana's house felt like breathing again. The neighborhood had changed. What used to be working-class families was now an HOA community called Maple Grove Estates, established in 1998. Somehow, the neighborhood had incorporated around my grandmother's property. Most original homes had been torn down and replaced with cookie-cutter colonials. But Nana's house stood unchanged. The realtor mentioned the HOA but said my property predated it. Grandfathered in, nothing to worry about. I moved in that March, thrilled to have a yard again. My teacher's pension was modest, so I wanted to reduce expenses. I installed 8 solar panels on the south-facing roof. Sunny Oregon days could cut my electric bill by 70%. I put in a rain barrel system to water the garden I was planting. I tilled my grandmother's old garden plot and planted tomatoes, beans, lettuce, and herbs. It felt like honoring her. Then I met Diane Crawford. She appeared on a Saturday morning, stepping out of a black Lexus wearing white capris and oversized sunglasses. 55 maybe, with that tight-faced look of too many procedures. "You must be the new owner." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "I'm Diane, HOA president. We need to discuss your improvements." "Oh, hello. I'm Margaret. Would you like some tea?" "This isn't a social call." She gestured at my solar panels. "Those weren't approved. Neither was that garden or those barrels. You'll need to submit architectural applications and remove everything until the board reviews." I blinked. But the house was here before the HOA. "Everyone follows the same rules. I'll email you the forms." She walked back to her Lexus. "Welcome to the neighborhood." The email arrived that afternoon. 17 pages of HOA covenants, conditions, and restrictions. Article after article about architectural standards, approved modifications, board review processes. A section highlighted in yellow. No solar installations, rain collection systems, or vegetable gardens visible from street or neighboring properties without prior written approval. I called the HOA office Monday morning. A bored-sounding woman answered. "I'm calling about the rules. My property was here before the HOA existed, so..." "Everyone in Maple Grove Estates follows the same rules, ma'am. No exceptions." "But I own this property outright. It predates..." "You'll need to discuss that with President Crawford. Would you like her email?" I spent a week researching. Oregon has strong property rights laws. HOAs can't enforce rules that contradict state law or unfairly target pre-existing properties. I found cases, precedents. I drafted a polite letter explaining my property's legal status and requesting exemption. Diane's response came 2 days later. "Your property became subject to HOA authority when you purchased it under current neighborhood jurisdiction. Solar panels installed without approval are a violation. The garden must be removed. Ornamental landscaping only. Rain barrels are unapproved structures. You have 30 days to comply. First violation fine, $250. I attended the next board meeting, held in Diane's living room, which looked like a furniture showroom. 3 other board members sat around her granite island, barely looking up from their phones. "Mrs. Chen, your violations." "It's Mrs. Anderson, and I'd like to explain the legal situation." "There's no legal situation. You're in violation. End of discussion." Diane sipped her wine. "Frankly, your property is an eyesore. That outdated house, the mess in your yard. My grandmother's garden isn't a mess. It's vegetables. This is a residential community, not a farm." She smiled coldly. "Some of us have worked very hard to maintain property values here. We won't let one stubborn person drag down the neighborhood." One board member, a younger guy named Tom, shifted uncomfortably. "Diane, if the property predates the HOA, shouldn't we check with a lawyer?" "I've checked. We're fine." Diane's voice had ice in it. Meeting adjourned. The fines continued. Weekly letters, certified mail. $250, then $500. Continued non-compliance. My solar panels generated electricity quietly. My tomato grew. The rain barrels collected water I used to keep Nana's roses alive. 4 weeks later, I found the notice on my door. Final warning. Total fines, $2,750. Remove all unauthorized installations by June 15th, or HOA will pursue foreclosure and legal action. Foreclosure. They could force the sale of Nana's house over a garden and solar panels. I called a real estate attorney that afternoon. She listened, asked questions. "Margaret, when exactly did you purchase the property?" "Last March, March 14th. "And when was the HOA established?" 1998, the documents say. "Was your property part of the original HOA plat map?" I don't know." She was quiet for a moment. "Get me your deed, your title insurance, and the HOA's original incorporation documents. I think Diane Crawford might have made a very expensive mistake." That night I couldn't sleep. The thought of losing Nana's house, of ripping out the garden she would have loved, of surrendering to someone who saw my home as an eyesore, something hardened in my chest. Diane wanted a fight. Fine, she'd get one. The breaking point came on a Wednesday morning in late May. I was watering the tomatoes. They were flowering beautifully, small green fruits just forming, when I heard a truck engine. A landscaping company truck backed into my driveway. 2 workers got out. "Morning, ma'am. We're here to remove the garden and the barrels." My heart stopped. "What? Who hired you?" The older worker checked his clipboard. "HOA work order. Says here everything in the side yard gets cleared. Barrels removed, area reseeded with grass." "You can't. This is my property." "Sorry, ma'am. We just do what we're told. HOA has authorization for violation remediation." He showed me the work order. Diane's signature at the bottom. I stood in front of the garden. "You're not touching this." "Ma'am, please don't make this difficult." My hands were shaking. Nana's garden, the tomato plants I'd started from seeds she'd saved decades ago, actual seeds I'd found in her garage in a labeled envelope. Big Rainbow Heirloom, 1987. The only living connection to her I had left. "If you touch one plant, I'm calling the police." The workers looked at each other. The younger one pulled out his phone, stepped away. I heard him talking, then he came back. "Our boss says we'll come back with a sheriff if needed. HOA says they have legal authority." He looked genuinely apologetic. "We'll give you until tomorrow to reconsider. But ma'am, this job's getting done one way or another." They left. I stood there shaking, tears running down my face. Not from sadness, from rage. Pure, clean rage. Diane had crossed the line. She wasn't just demanding compliance anymore. She was hiring people to destroy my property, to erase my grandmother's memory, to bulldoze my autonomy. I pulled out my phone and called my attorney. "Christine, I need everything. Every legal weapon we have. I don't care what it costs." Christine worked fast. Within 2 days, she'd pulled county records, original HOA documents, and my property's complete title history going back to 1952. She called me Friday evening. "Margaret, sit down. This is good." I sat at Nana's kitchen table. "How good?" She said, "Your property was never legally incorporated into the HOA. When Maple Grove Estates formed in 1998, they filed a plat map that included your grandmother's lot, but they never got her signature on the covenant agreement. She wasn't required to join, and she never did." My heart was hammered. "So the HOA has no authority over my property?" "Correct. Your property is a legal island, surrounded by the HOA, but not subject to it. When you bought it with the same status. The HOA has zero enforcement power over you." Does Diane know this? Either she doesn't or she's hoping you don't. Either way, she's been collecting illegal fines and threatening foreclosure she has no right to pursue. That's fraud, Margaret, and harassment. What do we do? Christine was quiet for a moment. "How aggressive do you want to be?" I thought about the landscapers, the threats, Diane calling Nana's house an eyesore. Very. We built the case over the next week. Christine found more. The HOA's bylaws required title searches before pursuing violations against any property. Diane had never done one. She'd assumed, threatened, and collected fines without verifying her authority. We pulled financial records. The $2,750 in fines Diane claimed I owed weren't in the HOA's official ledger accounts. Where was that money supposed to go? Christine contacted two other homeowners Diane had targeted, an elderly man she'd fined for parking his vintage car in his driveway, and a young couple fined for painting their door the wrong shade of approved cream. Both had paid thousands in fines to avoid foreclosure threats. "She's been running a protection racket," Christine said, "targeting people she thinks won't fight back, collecting fines the HOA never sees." We found the smoking gun in county records. Diana had filed 3 foreclosure claims in the past 2 years. All had settled quietly with fine payments. "She knows exactly what she's doing," Christine said. "She targets properties like yours, claims authority she doesn't have, scares people into paying." "Can we stop the landscapers?" "Already done. I sent a cease and desist this morning. If they set foot on your property, it's trespassing and I'll have them arrested." She paused. "But Margaret, I think we should do more than just defend. I think we should go on offense." "What do you mean?" "I mean, we sue her, personally, for fraud, harassment, and attempted theft, and we CC every homeowner in Maple Grove Estates on the filing." I smiled for the first time in weeks. "Let's do it." The lawsuit hit like a bomb. Christine filed on a Monday morning a civil complaint against Diane Crawford personally for fraud, harassment, attempted theft, and abuse of HOA authority. But she didn't stop there. She filed a separate ethics complaint with the state HOA regulatory board, and she sent a detailed letter to every single homeowner in Maple Grove Estates outlining what Diane had done. I was watering the garden, still standing, still growing, when Diane's Lexus screeched into my driveway at 4:47 p.m. She got out, face crimson, waving papers. "You can't sue me. I'm an HOA officer. I have immunity." I set down the watering can. "Actually, you don't. Not for fraud. This is ridiculous. You're in violation of rules that don't apply to my property. My grandmother never signed your covenant. This property was never legally part of your HOA." I kept my voice steady. "You knew that, didn't you?" "That's not— the lawyer said—" "What lawyer, Diane?" "Because mine pulled the records. You never did a title search. You never verified your authority. You just threatened foreclosure and collected money." Her mouth opened and closed. "Those were legitimate fines that never appeared in HOA financial records. Where did that money go, Diane?" 2 cars pulled up behind hers. Tom, the board member, and another woman I recognized from the meetings. Tom walked up, holding the letter Christine had sent. "Diane, we need to talk, right now." "Tom, this woman is lying."
Are you? Because I pulled the HOA bank records. Like the letter suggested, we've collected over $40,000 in fines the past 3 years, but only $18,000 is accounted for. Where's the other $22,000? Diane's face went white. And I called Bill Henderson. You foreclosed on his corner lot 2 years ago. He paid you $12,000 in fines and legal fees to stop it. None of that is in our ledgers either. That was a separate settlement. You can't make separate settlements. You're not the HOA, you're an officer. Tom looked disgusted. How many people have you done this to? I watched Diane's perfect composure crumble. You don't understand. I work so hard for this neighborhood, to keep standards. You've been running a scam. Tom turned to me. Mrs. Anderson, on behalf of the board, I apologize. We had no idea. The emergency board meeting happened 3 days later. 57 homeowners attended. The room was packed. Christine presented evidence. Financial discrepancies. Illegal foreclosure threats. Properties targeted outside HOA jurisdiction. The vote was unanimous. Diane was removed as president, removed from the board, and banned from holding any HOA position. The board voted to refund all fines she'd collected from me and launch a full forensic audit. Diane sat in the back row, silent, while her reign collapsed around her. The forensic audit took 6 weeks. The final report was damning. Diane had collected over $63,000 in fines and fees over 4 years, money that never reached HOA accounts. She'd targeted 12 properties, mostly pre-HOA homes or elderly owners she thought wouldn't fight back. She'd pocket the payments and bury the paper trail.
The board filed criminal charges. Diane pleaded guilty to fraud and theft to avoid trial. She paid full restitution, every penny, plus penalties, and received 2 years probation. She and her husband moved out of the neighborhood within a month. They sold their house fast and quietly. The HOA's new president, Tom, personally apologized again and offered to reimburse my legal fees. I accepted. They also formally acknowledged my property's legal status, in writing, recorded with the county, as exempt from HOA authority. But the best change was the neighborhood itself. People started talking to each other, really talking. The audit revealed Diane had been creating divisions, telling homeowners that others were complaining about them, keeping everyone isolated and afraid. Without her, the community relaxed. Mrs. Patterson, 3 doors down, planted roses along her fence, something Diane had forbidden. The Johnsons painted their door a cheerful yellow. Bill Henderson, who'd paid $12,000 to save his corner lot, got his money back and started parking his restored '67 Mustang in the driveway again. And my garden? It flourished. By August, I was harvesting more tomatoes than I could eat. I started leaving baskets on neighbors' porches, big rainbow heirlooms, just like Nana grew. People would stop by to thank me, to chat, to ask about my solar panels. 3 families installed their own by the end of summer. Nana's house became the heart of the neighborhood again, just like it was meant to be. I learned something important through all this. Bullies rely on isolation. Diane kept everyone afraid and separate, convinced they were alone in facing her. The moment we connected, the moment people saw they weren't the only ones being targeted, her power evaporated. Document everything. Every email, every fine notice, every threat. I kept every piece of paper Diane sent me, and it became evidence. If something feels wrong, if someone with authority is pushing you around, trust that instinct and get help. And know your rights. I almost gave up, almost tore out Nana's garden and surrendered because I thought Diane had legal authority. 5 minutes of research by a good attorney proved she didn't. Your property, your home, know what power others actually have over it. I'm 68 now, sitting on the porch where Nana taught me to snap beans, watching my tomatoes grow. My solar panels hummed quietly above me. Life is good. If this story resonated with you, I'd appreciate a subscription. There's strength in sharing these experiences, helps people recognize when they're being manipulated and gives them courage to fight back. Sometimes standing your ground means defending the ground itself.